It's a 7:15 onto this now. I want to bring your attention to the framing of the story from the Business Day, because I think they've done an incredible job just to explain it. This is today's Business Day. You can read all about it. And they're talking, of course, about the Israeli offensive, the plan to take control of the Gaza Strip. But what they've done is they've spoken, or at least they're quoting residents from Gaza City, one of whom had just returned home with her family during the ceasefire after months of being in the southern part of Gaza. And she's asking the question, are we going to die this time? Are they going to displace us again? Are we going to end up in Rafah? And will this be the last time? Or are they going to force us out of Gaza after Rafah? Rafah, of course, is the southern part of Gaza, right next to the Egyptian border. They also speak to another resident who says there's nothing left in the Gaza Strip that has not been struck by missiles and explosive barrels, and there are still threats to expand. I'm asking in front of the whole world, what is left to bomb? Gaza's 2.3 million people, of course, are struggling with a lack of food. Many are lucky to even have one meal a day. The World Food Programme saying that it has run out of food stocks. They said that on the 25th of April. The Business Day reporting that something as basic as flour is such a rare commodity, it can cost up to $500 to get a sack of flour. Times that by 18, you get a sense of what that might be in rands and cents. So we have this action we've taken to the International Court of Justice as South Africa, much welcomed by many in this country. But what does it all mean if this kind of thing continues to happen as if no one is watching? Dr. Navi Pillay is the chairperson of the United Nations Commission of the Inquiry on Israel and Palestine and joins us now. A real pleasure to have you on our show. Thank you for your time.
A real pleasure to join you and listeners. Thank you, Bongani.
How would you describe the current situation in Gaza from, let's say, a humanitarian point?
You know, we are seeing this in real life, all of us, via TV and images. So we don't have to, we are the unit that investigates and collects the facts. So these facts pour into us with satellite footage. So when we report, it's the UN's findings. But everybody knows this because they can see this for themselves. So firstly, it's absolutely a violation of international law. International law protects civilians. They should be protected, and attacks against them must be prevented. These are the obligations. So what you heard in the International Court of Justice recently, you know, that's the only avenue that states have to get the court to determine what's legal and what's not. So
Yes.
In this case, the question from the General Assembly, a large majority of members, to the court was, what are the responsibilities of states towards the United Nations and aid organizations and so on.
Dr. Pillay, I think a layperson will look at all of this and say, what was the point? I mean, do these instruments, these international instruments actually work? Because they're there to prevent this kind of thing, and it seems to have continued unabated.
Well, we have to have the rule of law. This is international law. And most states obey this. Now we have a rogue state that lies. They said they were there in Gaza to get rid of Hamas. And witnesses we spoke to, and we can see for ourselves, is really their real intention was to go after the land, to dispossess Palestinians. So we need these laws. These are the only remedies we have that the UN has.
But do they work?
And, well, they're not working in this case. Even the Secretary General has been banned by Israel from coming to Israel to see for himself. And we've been stopped. They've never let us in to see what's going on. And why
Doctor-
would they do that?
Yeah.
Why stop international media?
Sure. But Dr. Pillay, you're a jurist. What kind of law is it if it can be ignored?
The law is there, and when a state or an individual breaks that law, then we have these international institutions. It's true, they're very slow, they're all very new. So in this particular case, Israel has been indicted by the International Criminal Court. So those are criminal court proceedings. And we never had the Rome Statute until like 30 years ago when it was adopted. And then we have the ICJ. This is a court that gives opinions, but it has no teeth. It can't implement its decisions. However, every state knows it's a very serious matter when the ICJ tells you to stop killing people and to stop this humanitarian blockade, to provide food, water. These are instructions. So that's the best we have, short of the UN setting up a military presence or a peace-building presence. And that's not going to happen because of powerful friends such as the United States who support Israel.
The Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, is saying this operation is going to be intensive. They're going to hold seized territories. But he's also making the extraordinary claim that they're doing this or at least they're doing this, moving Palestinians, that is, for their own safety. What's your reaction to that?
I mean, that is absurd. You, I, and every listener on Radio 702 will see through that because they smashed up all the buildings. They killed like 50,000 Palestinians. And they have a history of, shall I say, stealing the land each time, expanding their hold on the land, getting rid of Palestinians. So we've heard shocking statements about plans for Gaza, Riviera, for instance, and they just took it for granted that they could mow down the Palestinians.
But
I've been working for years on these in this area, and I assure you, the Palestinians will never leave their birthland.
What about the concern that Hamas still holds some of the hostages that were taken on October the 7th, and that, if you just surrender those, that might at least limit what the Israelis might do?
Well, they had reached an agreement, a ceasefire. Hamas had committed atrocities on October 7th and took innocent people, civilians, as hostages. That's a crime under international law. You cannot take hostages. You have to release them immediately. So that's out there. But in these...
But again, that hasn't happened.
talks,
Hamas still holds some of those hostages.
Yes, it has. And it's committing crimes in doing so.
What about the use of starvation as a weapon? I mean, some of the reports suggest that Palestinians are reduced to eating weeds or leaves. Fishermen in the area are catching sea turtles and selling their meat. That's just to survive?
This is what the commission that I chair has investigated and documented, and has concluded that the starvation is being carried out as a policy. Starvation is a crime. In international law, it's also an aspect of genocide. So we've named those as crimes. We've called for an immediate end to the policy of starvation, which has been going on from March 2nd. So it's utterly shocking. And I think, Bongani, with your questions and people's questions, this is what we're all seeing, that we don't have protection against violators on this scale.
It's extraordinary that humanity doesn't seem to be learning these lessons. The UN was formed after the Second World War, and the thinking then was never again. But here we are. And whilst we might be shocked by recent developments, I mean, this occupation has been ongoing since 1967. And that's perhaps even a generous interpretation.
Yes. So, we were set up by the UN 3-4 years ago, and one of our instructions to us is to identify the root cause of the conflict. And you just said it. So that's what we did. We said it's the unlawful occupation that is at the root of the conflict. And that's the one that the GA asked the ICJ for its advisory opinion. And the advisory opinion was very clear. You have to end the occupation now. Give back the land to Palestinians. So much land has already been taken away from Palestinians. The violations are not only in Gaza, but in the West Bank and in Palestinian occupied territory as well.
Dr. Navi Pillay, I appreciate your time, Chair of the UN Commission of Inquiry on Israel and Palestine. What is the point of international law if it can simply be ignored by those who have powerful weapons, by those who have powerful friends? Are we all sitting ducks until someone powerful comes for us? These just empty words, these inquiries. What was the point?
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions.
Your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.